Sir, today exhibition art gallery.
जी.
You are also chief guest. Today what is the program, sir?
Oh, today was event was organized by Noor Digital Center from Delhi. What they've done is collaborated with a local government in Hyderabad as well as the state archives, national archives. I don't know if they're national, but the archives in Tarnaka. And they've collaborated to digitize the whole thing and save it on microfilm. So it's very good because all the documents there are crumbling. It's in a bad state, and up to this point they're still intact. But I think given another 50 years, they would become so brittle and start disintegrating. Sometimes we need to go and pick up records from there because they're authentic records. They're certified by the department and given to us. But every time they open a book, some of the pages are getting torn or broken or something. So digitization is the perfect thing at the right time,
Yes, sir.
or almost at the right time, because some books are really spoiled even now. And once they do that, they're preserved for the next 100 years at least. That's what I know of, like maybe more than that. So it's a very exciting thing happening now, and it's very thrilling. And also I'd like to say that even Sarajang Museum, they have about 8,000 manuscripts, handwritten books, handwritten documents. So each document is average about maybe about 100 pages or say 70, because some of them are 400 pages, some of them are even smaller, and some of them are written in gold water and all that by some very rich people. So I proposed to Mr. Nagender, who was a director of Salajang, that I would like to pay for the translation because very interesting to know what they wrote. Because digitization or preservation is different. Preserving just the paper will be in Persian. The preservation also will be in Persian, but people here should know what was actually written, because most of the documents are from the Golconda times, which was even pre-Hyderabad, because the Nizams came here about 300 years ago, 300 years and 1 month ago, you can say, or maybe 300 years and 6 months ago. And before that, they were Qutub Shahi kings. They were Persians. So most of the records, and they are the ones from Golconda Fort, by the way, they formed Hyderabad. They made Charminar. So all those documents are in Persian. It will be very interesting to translate. So, but the problem is the thousands and thousands of papers, and they would have cost a fortune for me to get them translated, because I was planning to pay for them. So then I contacted Mr. Ramesh, who was the Vice Chancellor of FLU, English and Foreign Languages. But he gave me a translator who was charging me about 600 per page. So eventually I said, bulk, maybe you can do it for 400. But now there are, probably like programs which you can download, which you can try. They distort things, but you can do it with the program first, and then, with the digitize, what do you call it, the translating program, which you can download as an app. And then whatever the errors are, you can again sit and do it. So that might be cheaper now. But when I contacted Mr. Nagender, that was 2 years ago. And 2 years ago, there was no way of doing all this except spending a whole 1 or 2 years. So finally, I told him, let's translate all the documents which are written in gold water and all that, because they look precious. He said, but we want the documents, and the material is important, or what is written. The narrations are important. Funds, and I should contact somebody in Delhi. This kind of a headquarter of Iran there. So I contacted them, but I live in Hyderabad, they live in Delhi, and somehow things didn't work out because it became too prolonged. I tried to them, they wouldn't answer for like a whole month and all that. So I dropped the program. So now, but I feel it's my responsibility, because there's a lot of real information there about how Islam works, because people just don't know a lot about it. And now I've been elected by my family, by the royal family, who's certified as a ninth Nizam of the Asif Jai dynasty. And dynasty just means the royal family, because now you cannot say your, with a straight face say your Nizam of Hyderabad, because Hyderabad is now part of India. I'm saying to Ijma. Ijma is a concept of Islam which promotes democracy. So it is basically something, it's not like person to person vote, but Ijma has something to do more with consensus of different leaders of a family. So they've chosen me now, and I have to live up to that and do something for the family, as well as save all these records of the royal family. It's become part of my responsibility. So even if I can't pay it, I'll have to get some sponsors to somehow do it and bring out these stories. Like people don't know what is ijma. In Muslims, there's no some father to son transition of power. So if the father is powerful, he'll probably want his son, and nobody can stop him because he's powerful. But in Aurangzeb's time, his father Shah Jahan was not powerful. So the Shah Jahan wanted his son Dara Shikoh to become the king. Aurangzeb killed his brothers, including his own brother Dara Shikoh, elder brother, and he jailed his father. And that's what happens in real. And he was a proper ruler. You can't say he's a duplicate ruler because he jailed his father and all that. So all this thing about how Islam goes about choosing the successors is important. Like in storybooks, it's like father to son. Like the elder son is like logical, but if the elder son is silly, then you choose some other son who's relevant, who can look after the dynasty, because looking after the dynasty is more important, not just love for a child. So all those things, and even the Prophet, for example, his successor was Abu Bakr Siddiqui, Rahmatullah alayh. He was a father-in-law. He was a father-in-law of the Prophet, not a descendant at all. So all these stories have to come out, and that Islam was democratic from the very beginning, because before the Prophet there was no transition of power, and after the Prophet was the first succession. The first succession itself was through ijma. Ijma is again like a democratic process. And even after Abu Bakr Siddiq Rahmatullah alayh, Hazrat Umar also got nominated. There's nothing like, the first Khalifa's children became Khalifas. I mean, coincidentally, I'm a direct descendant of the Khalifa also, the first Khalifa. So all the Nizams are descendants of that line. So all that we need to bring out because of this. These documents in Salajang will give a lot of story about that.
Delhi se how many members?
Pardon?
Delhi.
Today, Delhi, about I think 4-5 people came from Delhi. One of them was a ambassador of Iran. Other person was Mr. Shahrukhi. He was right from Hyderabad. And then there's another attaché who was like cultural attaché. He was wearing a white turban. He was there. There was one more gentleman. And then there's another person who was looking after the Iranian embassies for the consulates for the last 40 years. He never became a consul general because I think he's an Indian resident. And but he was organizer today because he speaks English and Arabic, Persian and Urdu. And he's been living in Hyderabad all through. So he organized this. He represented the whole thing and put it together because some of the consulate people, they don't speak English or Urdu. Urdu you can understand. Urdu is like just a regional thing, but English also they don't speak because in their country they don't bother about English or anything. They just follow Persian, and they are very vehement about their culture, and they don't care about other cultures so much. But somehow they are attached to Hyderabad. And the first movie I think which was made was a collaboration of Persia and Hyderabad. I don't know why they collaborated, but they collaborated. The first movie ever, which is very unusual. And I've been very close to the first ambassador's daughter. Her name is Dr. Fatime, and she brought out, again through these translations, she brought out some Tibbe Nabawi, which is a recipe of the Prophet for, healing people. And she picked up something to lose weight, and she broke a world record for that. Her name is Dr. Fatime. She became very famous in Hyderabad. She was reported in every 4th day in almost every paper as she was called the queen of slimming because she helped people slim who could not walk because they're too heavy to walk or their knees are gone. So she could slim them even without exercise and without much diet, with just altering charts. So it was fantastic. And she was the first ambassador's daughter. The first ambassador was Abul Fazail Mustayidi, and he was the first ambassador to India after the Islamic Revolution. So he's very important, and he was very friendly with Mrs. Indira Gandhi, who gave his daughter a seat in India for medicine. So I'll end with that. I'm going on and on. So my name is Ronak Yar Khan, and recognized as the 9th Nizam of the Asif Jahi dynasty by the family. Thank you.
In Telangana. And this MOU was signed on 26th April 2024 by my predecessor, Srimati Bharati Holikari, and the then Principal Secretary Shailaja Madam, both very dynamic officers. And now we have handed over 323 manuscripts and 1,414 library books for digitalization and conservation. So
مربوط به دوره آصف جاهیان و دوره نظام را دیدم که رها شده بود و هر ایرانی و هر هندی دوست می داشت که یک روزی این اسناد شناخته بشن، نگاهداری بشن، مرمت بشن و معرفی بشن. روابط فرهنگی و اقتصادی و سیاسی دارند.
It's more than 1,000 years that these two great nations, India and Iran, the people have the impact on the culture and civilization, in economic and as well in the politics.
در جای جای ایران نام هند شناخته شده است و در سراسر هند آثار ایرانیان مشهود است.
In every part of Iran, India is very famous. Similarly, in India, you can see lots of historical monuments of Iranian culture.
ولی تصور نمی کنم در هیچ کجای این بر صغیر پهناور جایی به اندازه حیدرآباد با ایران ارتباط فرهنگی داشته بوده باشد.
But I never came across any place anywhere in India or in the world which has so much of cultural ties with Iran, a place like Hyderabad which has Iran.
جای پای ایرانیان در همه جای هند دیده می شود، اما در حیدرآباد از همه جا بیشتر دیده می شود.
You can see the footsteps of Iranian everywhere in India, but the most of it you will find in Hyderabad.
وقتی یک نوجوان 9 ساله از همدان همراه با عموی خودش به حیدرآباد سفر می کند تا یک شاهزاده‌ای که می خواهد جان خودش را از خطر دشمنان حفظ کند به هند می آید و بعد هم اون نوجوان 9 ساله در حیدرآباد شاه می شود. یک سلسله به نام قطب شاهیان تأسیس می کند که 200 سال ادامه پیدا می کند.
When a 9-year-old boy with his uncle who traveled to Hyderabad, to India, to rescue himself from the enemies, and who staying here, and he reaches to the peak of becoming a king, and for 2 centuries they ruled this place.
و می شود یک در گشوده‌ای به روی ایرانیان برای آمدن به حیدرآباد و هندیان برای رفتن به ایران.
This becomes a gateway open for the Iranians to come to India, similarly from Indians to go to Iran.
من خوشحالم که به برکت روابط خوب 2 ملت و 2 دولت ایران و هند مؤسسه میکروفیلم نور و خواجه پیری پدر و خواجه پیری پسر توانستند در 40 سال گذشته گام مهمی در حفظ میراث مشترک ایران و هند بردارند.
I'm happy that the two great nations like India and Iran having common civil culture between both of them, and father and son Khaja Piri who have taken initiatives in recognition and in protection and preservation of these both the countries historical monuments and historical records.
و خوشحالم که با امضای تفاهم نامه‌ای میان مؤسسه میکروفیلم نور و موزه حیدرآباد کار برای شناسایی انواع اسناد آغاز شده و انشاءالله این اسناد در اختیار ادیبان، مورخان، جامعه شناسان و همه مردم قرار میگیرد و از آن استفاده خواهند کرد.
By signing the MOUs between the Department of Heritage and the Archives of Telangana with Noor International Microfilm Center, I am very much hopeful that this will become an initiative for the scholars and the people, historians who really want to work for the historical relations between both the countries. It will open a new gate for them. First, I request him to speak a few words.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحیم لا حول ولا قوة الا بالله العلی العظیم. خدا رو شاکرم که توفیق شد در اولین بار به شهر حیدرآباد.
I thank God that I got this opportunity for the first time to visit Hyderabad. Maybe I visited India's more than 7 times, but this is the first time that I'm visiting Hyderabad.
با اینکه اولین بار اومدم ولی هیچ احساس غربت نمی‌کنم، احساس من تو شهر خودم هستم.
Though it's my first time to Hyderabad, I don't feel like a stranger. I feel I came to my own city.
معلوم میشه مردم حیدرآباد مردم خونگرمی است.
This shows that the people of Hyderabad are warm-hearted.
انشاءالله که این ارتباط بین ملت ایران و ملت هند که سالهای طولانی است وجود داشته ادامه پیدا کنه و همیشه این پیوند محکم‌تر باشه.
I hope that this relationship between the people of Iran and people of India will become more and more strong so that for the future generation it will be very much helpful.
خب این سفری که ما اومدیم از سوی دولت هندوستان بنده دعوت شدم و در این دعوت شهرهای مختلف رو داریم از نزدیک می‌بینیم و جلسات علمی و دانشگاهی رو داریم.
During my this visit, I was invited by the government of India. I'm visiting various cities and various institutions where we are having the meetings, educational as well as cultural meetings.
ظرفیت‌های خیلی خوب علمی و فرهنگی بین ایران و هند وجود داره.
There is a lots of scope of a cultural and educational relationship between both the countries, Iran and India.
هر چقدر دانشمندان ایرانی و هندی
More and more the scholars of between Iran and India, if they have close rapport and good relationship with each other, it will be further strengthening the both relationship between both the countries, avoid the civilizations.
یکی از راه‌های تقویت این ارتباط حفظ در کشور ایران و هند وجود دارد.
One of the ways of protecting this relationship is the documentary evidences that are present in both the countries, it should be preserved.
این اسناد رو ما نباید فقط میراث فرهنگی بدانیم.
These documents should not be only considered as their heritage and culture. Today at the Telangana State Heritage Department, at the Telangana State Museum, Bhagwan Mahavir Auditorium, there was a program organized by the Department of Heritage Government of Telangana for the works that has been taken up by the Noor International Microfilm Center for digitalization, repair and conservation of the documents as well as the manuscripts which are present here. So nearly 11 catalogues have been released and that will be translated into English and Farsi and be distributed to all the people.
For translation also Irani language and other languages. How many years?
Most of the documents, 600 years of documents, they belong to the Persian. Up to 1885, Persian was the official language of this region from the Bahmani period to the Mir Mehboob Ali Pasha, the 6th Nizam. After 1885, 6th Nizam Mir Mehboob Ali Pasha who declared Urdu as an official language. So those documents in Urdu up to 1948 are also there, which we are doing the conservation and preservation and digitalization work. Total number of documents are 33 million documents and more than 700 manuscripts.
Thank you, sir.
Hello?